Hi everyone, welcome back to the next diecast. In today's video, I'll be showing you and reviewing this 1/18 scale Bugatti W16 Mistral made by Bburago. I got this model from Sam's Club for $16.98 in total, and it actually came in a Maisto box because Bburago and Maisto are under the same company umbrella, which is the Mei Chiang Group. And at wholesale clubs, Bburago and Maisto models will be packed in Maisto boxes. You see this at Sam's Club, Costco, and BJ's as well, at least here in the United States. And then my parents ended up actually paying for the model and giving it to me for Christmas, so I was very grateful for that. Bburago released this model new for 2024, and currently you can find it in this really awesome bright yellow with the two-tone black and yellow interior, along with a black with the same colored interior and the same wheels that you see here. The Bugatti Mistral was unveiled in 2022, and 99 units of this hypercar will be built, and it's actually currently the fastest open-top vehicle in the world. In late 2024, this car actually broke a speed record of 282 miles per hour, which is just insanely fast. Production of the real-life Mistral began in 2024, and once again, 99 units will be built worldwide. So when Bburago released this model, or rather when they showed it in their 2024 diecast catalog, I saw that they were going to be doing a model of the Mistral, and I was really excited about that. Bburago has done several Bugatti releases in their 1/18 scale line over the past 10 years, beginning with the Chiron when that was a new model, and when that real car was actually new, all the way up to the Mistral. So that's really cool to see that Bburago is making these Bugatti models in 1/18 scale, because having a budget grade option for any hypercar model really in 1/18 scale is really cool to have. I'm sure that various expensive resin models and possibly expensive fully opening diecast models will be made in the coming years of the Mistral, but Bburago's version, I think, is really good to have for budget-minded collectors for sure. You can find this model for usually between $35 and up to $65, depending on which site you're buying it from online. And you can find this on many different sites, such as the Amazon site, eBay, and various diecast model car websites, such as Diecast Model Wholesale, Carson Diecast, and what have you, depending on which country you are purchasing it from as well. But it was very nice to be able to find this at Sam's Club for the $16.98 price tag. And wholesale clubs such as Sam's Club, at least here in the US, do sell 1/18 scale models, usually between June and December in a given calendar year. So perhaps we will see this particular model in those pallets at those wholesale clubs that I mentioned in future summers to come, perhaps offered in different colors. But currently you can get it in this yellow along with that black version that I mentioned. And I think this model is a great model for the most part, although I think there are definitely a few aspects that can be improved on. But I'll go over all those different details as I talk about the model in the review here. So we'll go ahead and start taking a look at the details of the model. We'll begin up here at the front. Bburago, I think, did an amazing job of capturing the overall look and shape of the Bugatti Mistral with their replica here. The Mistral has lots of different shapes going on and curves and everything. Just the overall body shape. Of course, Bugattis have the iconic horseshoe-shaped grille in the front, the headlights, just all the different shapes I think are kind of quite difficult to capture. Even just trying to draw this thing, I would probably have issues, just because the different shapes and geometry going on are so unique and everything. But Bburago, I think, did do a really good job of capturing the overall look and shape of the Mistral for sure. And the shelf presence of this car, whether you get it in the yellow or the black, although I definitely prefer the yellow, is incredible. This will definitely look good on the shelf next to other hypercars or supercars if you happen to be collecting those too. But Bburago, I think, did a great job with the look and shape of this model, absolutely. In the front here, you will see that Bburago did a good job with the headlights. The headlights have kind of a neat shape going on. They're almost like a C shape in a way, but you can see all the different LED bulbs going on. And if you look closely, there's actually an extremely small Mistral inscription at the very top of that headlight there. I didn't actually see that, and it's on this one too, until I got the model. I assume the real life Bugatti Mistral does have those little tiny details on there, because this car in real life does cost around $5 million. So little details like that I think are to be anticipated. So that's very cool. But the headlights are nice and flush with the metal body, which is always good to see. I don't see any like glue pegs and anything similar to that on these headlights. There is a slight gap on this one between this side here and the fender, but you really can't see it unless you look at it like really closely. So Bburago, I think, did a great job with these headlights for sure. All the grills are nicely molded in plastic. You also have this nice textured carbon fiber down here on the plastic bumper. And although all of this is plastic, at least there are different textures going on and everything. And the grills do have the mesh texture, but they aren't perforated mesh, unfortunately. But Bburago is a budget grade manufacturer, so having the perforated mesh I think would probably add to the cost. But from a distance, it really does look great. And then you have the Bugatti logo in the center as well of that grill there. Almost seems like a separately cast plastic piece, and in fact, it is not. It's molded into that grill, but it really does look good. Bburago, I think, has done a great job on their recent releases with all the different badging. And just the build quality, too. If this model were to have been released like 10 to 15 years ago, I think some questionable build quality and details would have probably been going on, at least as far as the exterior goes. But Bburago really has been, I think, doing an awesome job with those aspects of their models. The paint quality on the model, speaking of quality, I would say is quite well done. The yellow finish on here looks really cool. I think a lot of people prefer the black version of the model. I know that a lot of the Bugatti press photos of the Mistral when it first came out did feature the black version of the car. And I have seen photos online, or renderings, I guess I should say, of the real Mistral in yellow. Although those renderings, the yellow paint is a little bit darker than what you see here on the model. But Bburago, I think, did a good job with the glossy finish of the yellow paint. The paint is nice and smooth throughout the car, which I always like to see. Although on this side, there is actually a small factory defect where a little bit of the yellow paint actually got on the black plastic portion where the carbon fiber texture is present. You see it a little bit right there. And there is a couple of like scuffs here and there on the model, but this is a budget grade model and I got it for like $17, so not really a big deal. Now, if I were to have paid like the standard price for this model, which if I were to get it from like Amazon or somewhere would have been upwards of $50, I would probably be a little bit bothered by that factory defect, but from a distance you really can't see it. You only see it here because I had the light shining directly on top of it. But aside from that, I really couldn't see any, there is actually another one on this door, but again, it's like very small, and that's probably just a factory defect for my model. But aside from those two small little paint problems there, the overall paint job on the model is very well done, I think, especially considering that this is a budget grade model. So Bburago, I think, did an amazing job in that sense, for sure. Taking a look at the side of the model, Bburago did a great job with the overall look and shape of the wheels. These are the wheels that you, of course, do see on the real-life Mistral, kind of this two-tone black and silver finish going on. You have the Bugatti logo embossed in the center of the wheel, and then you have the Bugatti inscription on the yellow painted brake calipers, which look very cool. And the brake disc does move through the caliper. Bburago does do that with their models, which is very cool to see. This model does have steering, but the steering is not that great. Bburago's steering systems really have not been that great. Now, if this model were to have been made by Maisto, when you turn the wheels on Maisto models, they actually stay in place. Bburago, they just kind of almost snap back to being straight instead of being turned. But you can see here that the steering wheel does work with these wheels. They're just very tight. So the steering on Bburago models is essentially non-existent in many ways. Like, it works, but you can't really put it up on the shelf with the wheels turned because they just go back to being straight when you let go of them. So kind of annoying that Bburago's had this issue for quite some time. They haven't really done anything to fix it. But aside from that, I mean, the wheels are nice and smooth on the model. And like when you spin them, you don't hear any like clicking or clacking or anything like that, like you do on some other like budget grade models. So at least it has that going for it. And most of Bburago's like newer releases in general kind of have that trait, I guess we'll say, going on. But I wish it had better steering. But aside from that, I mean, the wheels and everything and tires are very well detailed. I think the paint job and everything on the wheels themselves and the different badging is almost like upper end model quality in some ways. So Bburago, I think, really did a good job in that sense. Not as much on the quality of the steering, but in terms of the visuals of the wheels, they look really well done. And then also on the side, you have the small French flag down here. And the lower cladding is done in plastic and has a carbon fiber texture like you would see on the real vehicle, because of course that would have real carbon fiber on it. So very cool. Nice sturdy side mirrors as well. They have a nice carbon fiber texture going on there. A little bit of paint rubbing off on this mirror where the yellow is, but it's a very thin stripe. So if you have, any bright yellow paint on hand, you can easily just touch that up. Maybe that's probably just a minor factory defect for my model. The windshield is made out of plastic and it's quite thin, so I would definitely not pick up the model by the windshield. That being said, when you give it a light tug, it does not move whatsoever, but I definitely wouldn't pick up the model by the windshield. If it were to be metal, that would probably be a better touch than having it be this plastic piece, but Bburago at least does do a good job of capturing the look and shape of this windshield though. And you have nicely molded wipers on there too, which I always like to see on these models. You got the Bugatti badge embossed up here. Nice touch, has a nice kind of reflective quality to it. When you look at the silver on there, super cool. Bugatti logo back here on the rear wing. And then Bburago also did an awesome job with these taillights back here too. The Mistral's taillights are quite unique, as you can see here. They almost seem like a bunch of like veins or whatever. But they have this kind of unique Y shape to each side, and then you have the Bugatti logo, or you have the Bugatti inscription, I should say, in the center of this kind of taillight bar. But this unfortunately does have a couple of visible glue pegs. You can see one there on that side and one there on this side, but really when you look at the model from a distance, you can't see that glue peg. When you look at it from this particular angle, you can't see the glue pegs at all. While we're looking at this angle, you can see that Bburago did a good job molding in the rear exhaust pipe too. In terms of the opening features of the model, you do have the opening front trunk, which just lifts up like so. Not too much to really see in here. Bburago does do a good job with capturing the overall look and shape of the front trunk, as you would see on the real car. Of course, the real car, it will be carpeted and probably have a couple of different components in here. Maybe some like tools or something, I'm not totally sure, but the trunk piece is nice and flush with the body and doesn't move when you push on it. So I do like to see that. And the underside of the engine cover is fully painted. I'm sure if this were the real car, there'd be some kind of liner underneath it. And Bburago will sometimes put the plastic liners underneath their opening hoods or front trunks, but on this model, they didn't do that, unfortunately. But aside from that, the trunk does look quite well done. Now, the engine cover does not open or lift off. I think on the Mistral, it's like bolted down and it can be lifted off in some form or fashion, but some of the W16 you actually can see from the outside of the car like this. This is actually the final production car by Bugatti that will be equipped with the W16 motor that first debuted with the Bugatti Veyron back in 2005. So that's another, I think, significant thing to know about this particular car. So the Mistral is definitely a significant vehicle in the history of Bugatti in many aspects, that one included. But what you can see of the W16 on this 118 scale replica, I think, is pretty well done. You do have a little bit of a texture going on in the center portion, and then you have the silver with the W16 Bugatti logo and the 1600 inscription with the Bugatti logo underneath that. And then in the center portion here, there's some kind of signature, it looks like. It might be a Torre Bugatti's signature, or maybe it's like the engine builder. I'm not totally sure on that. But this is just one single plastic piece, but there is some depth to it. You can see down a little bit through those gaps. But Bburago, I think, did a good job with what little you can see of the W16 on the car. And it does look good up on the shelf like that, too. Although this does not lift off, you do get the adjustable rear wing, which I do love to see on these models. You just pull it up like that. Doesn't always want to stay up, but you just pull it up like that, and there you go, you have the rear wing. And when put up on the shelf, the Mistral really does look awesome with that wing raised up. Now, the wing is made out of a thin plastic material, so I would be careful when you move the wing like up and down and everything, because it is kind of on the thin side, but it definitely shouldn't break. It was made to be raised and lowered quite a bit, I believe. But after some time, it might kind of have trouble staying up on its own, because it does raise and lower with kind of these thinner plastic dog leg hinges. So I'm not really sure if they're made to last very long or not. And the paint does match up well with the metal parts of the car. I did forget to say something about that. And the wing is flush with the body when you lower it down too. So that's cool to see, especially for a budget grade model. And then of course you also have the opening doors on the model as well. They open up on spring-loaded hinges, so they don't open up that wide. But the detail on the interior, I think, is quite good for a Bburago model. Bburago does a great job with all the different fine detail you see on the dashboard and steering wheel and the center stack. You can see all the different buttons are nicely embossed on there. And with the steering wheel, it is the accurate shape to what you would see with the real-life Bugatti Mistral. And then, of course, you have the Bugatti logo stamped on the center portion of the steering wheel. You see all the different colored in buttons on here. You have the nice gauge cluster sticker behind that, and a couple different colors and textures going on with this dashboard. You see the airbag inscription and the nicely molded in vents too. You have the carbon fiber texture kind of going on with the center stack area, as you can see here, in the center portion of the dashboard. And then you have some more carbon fiber behind the steering wheel too. So I do like to see fine detailing like that, especially in a budget grade model for sure. The door panels are nicely detailed too. They have a couple different colors and textures going on there. You even have the window buttons painted on there too. So I think Bburago did a great job in that sense too. The underspray that you see here is a little bit distracting, I guess, from the details on the door panels, but this is a budget grade model once again. So they're not going to have like extremely fine like precision detailing with different like paint aspects like that. But from a distance, you really can't tell that the underspray is present on that door panel. Same goes for this door panel here. You can kind of get a little bit of a better view of those textures that I mentioned, and even have the nice molded in door handle. So Bburago, I think, really has been improving on the quality of the interior details of their models too, in that sense. And then taking a look at the seats of the model, Bburago, I think, did a great job with the seats as well. They have a couple of different textures going on. The paint doesn't match up quite well between the black and yellow, and you can even see on here how there's kind of some like overspray and like the underspray situation going on. But again, for a budget grade model, I think that's fine. And from a distance, you really can't see it all that well. But there is the Mistral inscriptions up on the headrest. You also have the Bugatti logo in between the seats. I forgot to say something about that. And Bburago does do a good job, I think, capturing the overall look and shape of these seats. Once again, there are a couple of different textures going on. You have that nice yellow stripe going down the middle, and then you have a rougher texture on these seat bottoms. You can kind of get a better look at the seats from this angle here. Again, there is a little bit of issues going on with the paint work, with the yellow on top of the black, or the black on top of the yellow. But for a budget grade model, I think that's just fine. A lot of manufacturers will just do one single color for the seats of their models, regardless of whether or not the real life vehicle had single color or two-tone seats. Bburago actually did do the two-tone colored seats on this Bugatti Mistral replica, which you would see on the real life vehicle. So they could have just cheaped out and done the seats as like all yellow or all black or something, but they ended up doing the two-tone look. And although it's not really applied all that nicely in some spots, it does look good, and especially from a distance. So they did a good job, I think, with that aspect. I think some better detailing would have been welcome in the sense of the paint jobs on the seats, but perhaps as this model is out longer, Bburago will improve on some of the details like that, and perhaps have better painted seats. But I think for what they have going on here for the seats on this first year release of the model, Bburago did a great job, I think. And for the undercarriage detail of the model, there really is not a whole lot to say. It's just all textured with that carbon fiber texture of plastic. You have the Bburago logo, Bugatti Mistral 1/18 scale, made in China, etc. So not really a whole lot to talk about down there aside from that. So Bburago, I think, really is awesome for giving budget grade collectors the opportunity of buying a 1/18 scale replica of the Bugatti Mistral to add to their collections. Yeah, there are some, fine details that could be improved upon, like the different paint issues on the interior of the model and the lack of steering that actually like works on the model. But I mean, for a budget grade model that you can find in most cases for below $60, Bburago, I think, does a good job with their replica of the Bugatti Mistral for sure. So if you can find this model for a good price, which I would say is anything below $60, you're getting a good model to add to your collection. And this would, of course, I think look great alongside higher end models too on your shelf of hypercars or Bugattis in general. So feel free to comment down below with your thoughts on this model by Bburago or on the video in general. And don't forget to subscribe to my channel. Thanks for watching.